Let me explain you how you're missing your life by thinking about it. You're there. You're living your life. And yet, many times it seems that we're not able to connect with that sense of aliveness. No matter how much you achieve in this world and how much you have. What is the problem? The problem is that you're thinking too much. And you may be aware of this already. And I'm definitely going to explain you how to solve that problem forever. It's going to take you a while. When I say that, I don't want to make any people think that it's just going to happen in an instant after watching a video for a few minutes. But you can have in a few minutes a crucial understanding that will change the pattern how you think and therefore behave. So it can be very meaningful to pay attention. So first thing is to understand why we do have this problem and how we are reinforcing it. Well, the reason why we have this problem is because we don't recognize we have a problem. Most people try to get rid of their negative thinking because that clearly, hopefully, most people realize, okay, that's bad. When you think about in that way, you feel anger, you feel sadness. So you realize, okay, these thoughts are bad. Bad surprise, when you try to get rid of them, it just doesn't work. You don't stop having fear so quickly just because you say, I'm not going to think about fearful thoughts. May work a little bit, maybe, but you probably know that's not going to work really. You're just suppressing them. So you ask me, okay, what's the solution? The solution, it is to actually monitor your mind on daily activities. And you just, without repressing anything, just notice how many useless thoughts you're thinking all the time. So instead of focusing on the bad, negative ones, and we try to reject them, that's creating a negative reinforcement wheel that is not going to work. So don't try to stop thinking, like in not thinking. And yet, I want to make this point clear because people don't do it so much. You can absolutely steal your mind. And it's not only that you can, it's that that's your natural state of being. That's how you remember your greatness. That's how you feel peace again. So as much as meditation, many times people say, yo, don't try not to think, that's not going to work. No, you're wrong. It's a very important sign. I'm not saying, of course, that is the goal, but it's a very important sign on how you're going to be improving. Because how still your mind is. And this is not a secret. From Advaita Vedanta, Zen Buddhism, Dzogchen, Mahamudra, Sufism, Christian mysticism, if you go through all these sources and many more, you're going to notice they're talking a lot about that silence where you notice God, or that emptiness, or that you hear all the time this negatively suggesting you to let go of thinking. And sometimes it's very straightforward. And it's very clearly reported by many liberated beings that they considerably thought less. Not only that, for those of you, or for someone who actually practices meditation, your mind will actually will be still, like completely still. And the experience of it is such a clarity, such depth in aliveness, that's how you get your understanding. That's how you realize, how did you, oh yeah, you sort of remember who you are. And the only thing that you're doing is you're just not concentrating on your thoughts. You're just relaxing. That's the part that looks very easy. And it is easy, and yet it will feel for most people difficult because we are just addicted to thinking. It's just a habit. It's like anything else. You're going to be surprised the day that you free yourself from your own thoughts. You're going to be surprised how incredibly easy it is. So much that thinking will feel like an extra activity that is bothering you. In most cases, of course, in regular life, you need to have certain practical and creative thoughts. But these are a small fraction. I will say something like one top 5% of your thoughts are actually useful. So yeah, I'm not saying your mind should be silent all the time. Although it can when you're resting, and it does when you're in deep sleep or in deep meditation, if you want to call it. It is clear, it's a clear experience. There is a very profound, obvious stillness of your mind, and that's actually what allows you to see in a sense of clarity and understand without words, without concepts. So, in regular life, the way you go about this is to obviously pointing out these little thoughts that are actually creating all the trouble, because all these negative thoughts that everybody's trying to get rid of, that thoughts that you notice, oh yeah, this is triggering me strongly into fear, like worrying, or into anger because I hate this person, or because when you notice these thoughts that we don't like, we suppress them. But I'm saying, don't pay attention to the other ones. Pay attention to the little ones, the noise that is in the background of your mind all the time. And they are harmless, but they're actually paving the foundation for all this destructive, negative thinking that is creating all the emotions that we're trying to get rid of. So instead of paying attention to the negative stuff or trying to get rid of the negative stuff, like some people would take it like, I'm going to try to not think anymore by means of trying not to think. Well, I agree that won't work. I mean, try it. It's just going to give you a headache and make you feel very frustrated. It is a common thing to happen in these practices when you're resting in stillness, that in the beginning you get some kind of frozen, rigid stillness and silence. I just want to make sure that it's clear that I don't mean that. I know many people could just try not to think for a few seconds. I'm not talking about that. That is effortful. It's the contrary. If you're doing it right, you should notice that it's more like you're just there, you're just relaxed. And thinking, it feels like as if I suddenly have to wake up and start moving. Like, why? And I can choose to be free just to sit and not use my legs at this point. In the same way, if you could say condition your mind through meditation. Okay, let's agree on that for the sake of simplicity, for you to make this happen. It doesn't happen like that. It's more like a letting go, but nevertheless, how it looks like you're sitting to let go every day, or you're constantly during your day letting go. So it looks like an activity, like something you have to remember, but that's just in the beginning. At some point, especially the moment that something in you opens and you embrace this silence, and it fills you, that it makes you to you suddenly start noticing, oh yeah, I'm missing myself, I'm missing my life, I'm missing this moment. Little by little, that momentum of honestly wishing happiness and peace will grow on you. So it doesn't need to be effortful. If you don't know where you are, just think about detox from your own mind a little bit. By that I mean, while you're walking, do you need to be thinking so much? Do you need to be thinking about that? Just keep an eye on how practical the thoughts in your head are during your day. I would say that's one of the best simple, clear, direct pointers that I can make, that anyone can make. Just watch your mind all the time. But in this case, I'm suggesting you to not judging them in terms of, I like this thought, I don't like that thought. No, it's just very simple. It is this thought leading me to anything? You're not judging in a way that is based even in memory. You're just reacting spontaneously in the moment. And that gives a flavor of a conductive mental state that is transparent and allows the background of happiness to come forward. And that's another way to describe what enlightenment is. When you dwell and deep, unmistakably, moment by moment, in this stillness, even when thoughts appear, they are just in the background of your experience. So you can decide if you pursue that thought or not. But most of the time, and this is something that is very well documented by liberated beings, that they had long stretches of mental stillness naturally. It's just your natural state. You don't need to think to exist. Your mind will feel awkward. Like you can just not go around like gossiping and judging everything. It feels awkward at first, but that's just like the detox. Like an alcoholic or someone who is unfortunately suffering from a feedback loop of behavior that is unaware of, really, of what's happening with the cause and the effect, the problem, the negative emotion, and the disaster in your life. We just don't make really strongly enough the causation and the effect. In this sense, we're doing the same thing with our thinking. We like our thinking. We find ourselves in our thinking. We say, oh yeah, I'm a creative person because this is me. And no. Let's make a distinction in here. Your creativity, the best of you, that brilliant thing you will say to someone, or that creative power, that idea that comes to you, if you would pay attention to your mind when it happens, you will notice there's a characteristic flavor in it. It just appears and goes away with no effort, and is surrounded by silence. Contrasted to that, all this negative thinking, that is regular thinking, that is accumulating suffering, is actually needs to be in chain. It needs to be supported with more thoughts. That's what it feels like. You never really stop thinking about anything. You're just like moving and jumping all the time like crazy. Yet you're not thinking really. You are just pulled away by impulses. But if you had to be effective, and hopefully in your profession or the skills you master, or anything you actually give meaning, you will notice that you focus your mind into that activity, and you do what I'm suggesting you to do in your regular life, but you do it in that specific activity. Let's say someone does sports, and when you play the game, let's say football or something like that, they will be there and they wouldn't start thinking about WhatsApp messages. And if they do, they probably just dismiss the thought and focus on what they're doing. If you're good at it, of course. If you're good at it, the only thing that makes you actually good to it is to remain in that state of focus all the time during that activity. That train your mind to not wander. So you can do that 24/7. This is like a continuous state of flow. And creative thoughts come more than ever, but they are not a problem. And positive thoughts, appreciative thoughts, they come and go. Like you could say to someone, oh, look, I love that tree, or I love your eyes. And you see how that kind of thought just appear and disappear. and appear out of the blue. You didn't really bring it there. You didn't really do anything about it. It just happened to you. And by the same way, your body and everything cooperates with it and it goes away. So how do you get to do that more often? Well, if we are addicts to thinking, we are overdoing alcohol, we are overdoing any bad habit, any dopamine depleting activity, then the solution is just don't do it. Yeah, yeah. There is this book called Dopamine Nation that is by a doctor. It's a really great book, Dopamine Nation. And she talks about many people with many different kind of addiction and how that is all related to dopamine. I find it a very interesting topic that I hope it is taught in schools someday, because it could save you so much trouble in life if you understand that simple chemical behavior of your brain. It is very useful, I would say. Well, the whole book, you will say, what do these people who are professionals, the best of the world, actually dealing with people who have addictions, what is the strategy? The strategy is don't do it. You say, wow, that's too simple. That's not going to work for me. Okay. Regarding thinking, that is the topic of this video. What does it look like to do this detox from thinking? Well, at first, I suggest anyone, instead of, you can eventually, from time to time, sporadically, just lay down and enjoy yourself like you would do going out, dancing, or doing anything you like. Just give yourself a break. And by that, you're already actually decreasing your mental activity. But on the level that I am discussing in this video, like to be in a permanent state of satisfaction and joy, that goes way beyond the average level. For that, most people will need to actually practice that. How does it look, the practice of not thinking? Well, I could tell you, go to Book of Zen, Advaita Vedanta. There's so many traditions, Saksam, Mahamudra, Sufism, Christian mysticism, Taoism. All of them make this point very clear. Still your mind. And all of them that I mentioned have very straightforward practices on still your mind. So you're going to find a lot of momentum of many people before us who work in extending the content that I'm saying in this video. But if I have to be as practical as I can, the way I normally recommend people to do this is by first you need to have a reference. Because the problem is that we don't notice when we get pulled by thinking, right? That's the actual problem. You notice afterwards, when it's too late, when you made a mess, you got drunk and you made a mess in your life. The same thing with singing. With thinking, after a while, you just notice, oh, I'm in a very bad emotion. And then you maybe start tracing back and oh yeah, I triggered this bad emotion with a lot of thinking before this moment. Well, yeah, it's too late. What do you do? Well, you need a good reference to get yourself free of thinking. How you do that? The traditional way of doing this in meditation is, for example, to focus on your breath in your nostrils. And then you have a reference for anchoring your attention. And then your mind is going to start trying to pull you out into thinking. And that, my friend, is the miracle moment. The moment that the thought pulls you a little bit and you relax, go back to bringing your attention back to this simple activity of observing your breath, your nostrils. Could be in your belly, could be any object you want, but it's a clear reference. And then your mind starts pulling out. In the beginning, most likely, for most people, not everybody, for most people, your mind's going to be pulling like crazy. Like you will sit for 5 minutes and it will feel like you have to 1,000 times relax your mind back to whatever activity you decided to focus on. Well, that is the way. You will little by little will collect your mind and you will be able to focus your mind effortlessly because it's not a concentration that you effortfully put into like school concentration, like focus on what you're studying and all that. No, it's not that kind of concentration, like forcing yourself to concentrate. It's you get rid, you free yourself of unnecessary thinking, and your mind is naturally focused on whatever is in front of you with high intensity. They will allow you to perform any activity during your day with great efficiency. But this takes time, so be patient. I would suggest, count down at the first time you sit for 10 minutes and you try to anchor your attention into something. Like you decide, okay, I'm going to rest my mind in something that is happening, something that is here and that is obvious. All the imagining and thinking and judging is layers of activity on top of that. So just figure out this thing you're sensing directly right now. And you rest your mind in there. You're letting go of top layers of activity. So it feels like resting. It doesn't feel like forcefully concentrating. But that's the way, my friend, that you will let go a huge chunk of your mental activity. Do that every day. And your mind will decrease in activity. And you will find yourself spontaneously that happening through your day. It's very difficult to do it on the go in the beginning because you don't have a clear sense of the continuity of not thinking or being free from thinking. So it's very difficult to pinpoint. So it's normal that if you try not to think while doing an activity, most people, like 90% of the time, will force their attention to do it. So you will drain out your mental energy. So if you try to stop your mind and not thinking while doing an activity is not working, I'm just trying to explain you're doing it wrong. And it's okay. Everybody try to do that because it's the regular sense of concentration we have. And okay, you have to try that to see that it gives you a peak of attention, but then it depletes you afterwards. So it's not really working for what we're discussing in this video. I want you to be fully attentive every single moment of your day. And you can only do that by resting your mind. That's the secret. You don't really do anything. You just honestly, earnestly want happiness and peace more than any thought that comes to take it away from you. Sounds simple, and yet it's a decision that most people haven't done yet. So choose peace now. Let your mind rest and see how the energy flows into appreciation of being here and now. Just because you are resting, your mind is still, clear and transparent. And even if you gravitate towards that, because it will happen automatically if you just stop pursuing stuff and trying hard, even to meditate or even to stop your thinking, just by relaxing, like when you go to sleep, something like that, a bit deeper than that. Just let go of your thinking processes and you're just here. And life is beautiful. And you realize that life is actually always beautiful. Only a thought could make you think differently. And it's not I don't want to give you the wrong idea in this video that you have to try to kill your thoughts or anything like that. No, I'm talking about relaxing. You don't need to follow the invitation to think. So even will certainly happen that thoughts will just appear. But you're just resting. You're sitting in your clarity, in your aliveness. And it's like someone come and walk and say, hey, come here. Can you buy me some of this stuff? I say, yeah. No, thank you. And you stay there. It's not really, it doesn't take you, you don't have to fight with the thought that comes to take you out of it. No, you just become transparent. You don't even need to respond to the thought. Of course, that's engaging with it. But with your own mind, you can just Let these thoughts move on. But the point that I'm hopefully trying to make very clearly, it is that there is a stillness. I think this is not mentioned enough, even in meditation circles. There is profound, transformative stillness. And it is from there that what is real and what is not real, what is made up by your mind and what is not, start becoming evident when you take away the imagination we are using to interpret the world. That is still in your mind. And once you really rest in there, and there are a lot of stages to this, I normally recommend The Mind Illuminated or The Attention Revolution. These are two books I normally recommend that talk specifically about what I'm saying right now. There are stages, levels on how you will sink into that. But at some point, this is where it just doesn't matter which tradition we pick. There's an agreement on this through time. The same silence you're feeling is the same silence the Buddha felt, or Jesus. The same one. Time hasn't changed it. And it's accessible to you. It's life, is what we call to be alive, to be conscious. That's what you are. And if you get directly in touch with it, life won't touch you again, or at least not the same, but at least not for a long time. Because you know, you're there. You are you. And nothing can change that.